he looks so much different than his picture on TCG Player, where he's like no beard and just like
he looks like a mountain man.
Goober smiling.
He's also very tall.
On his in his real life persona,
Really?
full beard.
Well, he's got a lot of beard. All right, guys. So we're underway here. Two players that could have had a better round one, but still should be a pretty good matchup. So we'll favor the quality of Magic opposed to the quality of record. As Troy, he's on an unintentional draw. He's playing Junk Midrange, and his opponent is Jonathan Wright, who we saw at the tail end of round one. He dropped a match to Green-White Aggro in that game. He's going to try and get his first win of the night with Esper control. Here's a turn 2 Thoughtseize, revealing 2 lands. Obsidat, Sin Collector, Brain Maggot, and Silence the Believers.
Wow. So the Silence is dead here, but the other 3 spells, unless Jonathan has a verdict.
Pretty good.
I mean, even if Jonathan has a verdict. I think he's just going to have to try to slug through the Sin Collector and the Brain Slug. He'll just have to take the Obsidat, and which is what he does. I just call that card Brain Slug, by the way.
Yep, it's Brain Maggot. I wasn't going to say anything. Figured maybe you did it on purpose.
Follows it up with a Scryland, chips a turn back, so we're probably getting to collect some sense here this turn. That's the card that adds more power and actually gets the cards out of your hand, so we see the Doomblade, which is going to be highly dead here. The only other target is Supreme Verdict, left with double Jace and a Detention Sphere.
Troy has an abundance of dead cards in game 1, I would think. Although the main deck Sin Collector is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Main deck Sin Collector is actually not that bad, I would think. Like, usually the worst matchup for it would be, what, Green-White Aggro, in which case you can get there. Celestia Charms.
It's not dead in any matchup.
And against the red decks, first of all, gets in the way of something, and then second of all, gets a Stoke to Flames.
Usually two for ones.
So Jonathan content to play Draw Go here, making very good use of his Scry lands. Like I said, I played with this deck just playing around with Scotty, his brother, earlier in the evening, and you really get a feel. I don't play a lot of Standard, but even in a few games, you really get a feel for how much these Scry lands let you burn through your deck. They're just incredible value.
So Troy missed on his second white source, so if he did draw an Obsidian, he can't cast it. This is really the turn where he needs to have an impact on the board. He can't just cast this Brain Slug and hope to get there from here.
2 Jaces, as Garrett calls it Brain Slug again, because it's funny. 2 Jaces, a Doomblade, and a Detention Sphere.
Like, if we take the first Jace, we have to take the second Jace.
Yeah. So Thoughtseize cleans up when a Brain Maggot started. 2 Jaces effectively removed, 1 forever, 1 temporarily, leaving Jonathan with a dead Doomblade in his hand, and if he wants to cast the D-Sphere on the Brain Maggot, I think Troy's going to be pretty thrilled with that scenario. And I think Jonathan's going to go ahead and do it here. And what's interesting here is that Troy is an Abrupt Decay deck, so Abrupt Decay on that D-Sphere is still pretty good at this point.
But this is the problem that Troy has. Like, as much work as he's done to Jonathan's hand, he's still only attacking for 2 a turn. And if this Jace comes down next turn, it's going to be attacking for 1, because Jonathan's definitely not just going to minus it.
Well, the good thing is that Troy has found a Caryatid, so absent Jonathan with a Supreme Verdict here, that Obsidat is going to resolve next turn.
Well, we hope he drew an Obsidat. The one that was in his opening hand is in the graveyard.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. Everything I said, ignore it. Also, isn't Jonathan at 12 life here? I'm sure that we'll adjust that as they're keeping track on paper.
I think he's at 14. He's cast 1 Thoughtseize and got hit twice by Sin Collector.
Okay. 4 mana for the Jace we already knew about.
Yeah.
Gotta tick it up, right?
Well, we could Impulse. The worst Impulse ever is still a good Impulse.
So Jonathan just places the die at 4, debating himself what he wants to do with it.
Getting card advantage in a matchup against Thoughtseize and Sin Collectors.
If you go down to 2, you effectively save yourself 2 life. It will die to the Sin Collector, but you will get to hopefully dig for some business. Jonathan decides to tick it up. That ensures it will survive through combat.
This is Troy's last turn, basically.
The last card in Jonathan's
game.
The last card in Jonathan's hand is a Doomblade. We know that. There is a Temple of was that Plenty?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what he drew for the turn, or else he would have played it last turn.
Now Troy has a thinker here. What cards do we want here? Obsidat, Blood Baron, or any...
You might be thinking of something like a Corsair, because a Corsair seems good here. Like it could start grinding some card advantage.
Whatever it was, it's on the bottom. It looks like a thought size. It looked like a Thoughtseize.
Something like Thoughtseize or Golgari Charm is also very tempting.
Yep. I think it was a Thoughtseize. I'll go ask him after the match is over. Or we can use our below the table camera to check it out. Whoops.
Turns out about me?
Turns out that doesn't exist. No. I was just making a joke. So Jonathan content to tick it up here.
Yeah,
we know he drew. We know he drew Temple of Deceit for the turn because we have full information off of an earlier Thoughtseize. That's a dead Doomblade in his hand, and Troy just continues to trade his combat step for 1 loyalty on the Jace. I mean, as long as Troy's not doing anything, Jonathan's probably content to keep ticking his Jace up.
I think Jonathan's debating right now whether
Here he's put. Oh!
Because he wants to get a land.
So
Actually, I would split this 2 verdicts, 1 mutable because Jonathan feels like he has a Sphinx Revelation, and he wants the extra lane. Like the debate there was he scribed that Revelation to the top. Not like that. Because he wants that land.
Yeah.
And now he's just going to cast an end turn Revelation. Well, he does have the verdict, which does stop an Obsidat, so if he doesn't have a dissolve in his hand, the verdict's right here.
Yeah. Obsidat is the one key. Troy's won out to victory here, it seems like.
Right now, so that's an irrelevant point. But it really felt like Jonathan had a Rev on top.
There's another meaningless Caryatid here.
Was just wanting a land. We'll see if this is true.
Tick up Jace, shock ourselves, which is the universal symbol for I have a Sphinx's Revelation in my hand. So Jonathan trades basically 1 life for an extra card. And there it is, as expected. Going up to 18 now, and then, like you said, Garrett, Troy had a good draw. He ripped Jonathan's hand apart, basically left him with no business for several turns, but just unable to apply any pressure of his own.
That turn 2 Thoughtseize saved Jonathan this game.
Because of the Obsidat?
Yeah, if he didn't get that Obsidat out, he loses easily.
Because Jonathan has not drawn a dissolve. I imagine there's at least 1 dissolve, if not 2, in Jonathan's hand at this point of the game. So the part of the match where Troy gets to resolve spells is over.
Here's a Blood Baron.
That will meet a dissolve. And then Troy has had enough, so they move to the sideboard. But Jonathan up a game with Esper control.
It was just a ticking time bomb with the draw that Troy had. It wasn't any pressure whatsoever. So.
Never got mine. And I'm like, what?
Ian. Oh, okay.
That's tricky.
That almost helps us 0 amounts.
Alright, so
The Battle of the Scrylands. Oh, Troy gets untapped first. It's basically, in this Scryland format, that you get to keep your opening silent and a half cards.
Yeah.
Alright, so a turn 2 Thoughtseize here off of Llanowar Ace. Llanowar Waste reveals 2 Jace Archetype Thought, a Dissolve, and then 4 lands, one of which is a Mutavault.
You're the Llanowar Ace.
I am a Llanowar Ace.
So we take the dissolve here since there's a backup.
On Wednesday night, well, you both were here, and Logan, you were very instrumental in that discussion, which we discussed Nissa, just not the card, just Nissa the character for a long time. It was very awkward.
She messed up.
Yeah, Logan was not pleased with her change. Alright, so Jonathan with a top deck Thoughtseize of his own. Troy reveals a Blood Baron. Liliana Vest, a Sin Collector, a Mutavault, and a Godless Shrine. What do we take here?
Well, we ended up taking the Jace, so yeah, that was his plan. He was going to try to get the dissolve with the Sin Collector. So I think we're just taking the Sin Collector.
Yeah, and Jonathan agrees.
And it's not like I'm some kind of profit back here. These lines are. If you're
Yes.
experienced with this deck.
Yes, given the way the previous turn had played out, that one kind of played itself.
Yeah.
Jonathan will resolve his Scry off Temple of Lightment, keeps that one on top. A variety of cards at this point that he could leave on top. So shocking ourselves. Here's an Underworld Connections.
That's good to get in under the radar.
Absolutely, and we're going to put it on
Not the Land War Waste.
Temple of Plenty. Yeah, it seems like a bit of a mistake there. Put it on the land that you normally have to pay life for, the colored mana. This is the top of Jonathan's deck, doing him a lot of favors there. That's the card.
On top.
Well, it still had to be there. So a Night Veil Spectre makes an appearance. Card advantage on a stick, and more importantly, Troy likely to have sided out a lot of his creature removal.
Troy likely to not have removal left in his deck.
And there is a on-color scry land.
If anything, he might have Hero's Downfall left.
Well, Abrupt Decay is still a good leave-in. I'm not sure if it's in his deck per se. And there is an Obsidat, which would be great if we didn't know about that dissolve. So Troy's going to try and get some card advantage off this Underworld Connections. He's desperately digging for a Duress or a Thoughtseize effect. He's going to bait out the dissolve
you got me.
with this Blood Baron.
No, I needed that Blood Baron, man.
Jonathan leaves his card on top. Look at that, coming through in the clutch.
Wasn't gonna let you down, man. Just had shit I had to take care of. Enjoy him.
I'll be here Wednesday.
Destroy lots of people's lives with those.
I will do. Thank you so much, Joe.
See you later, Joe.
Fulminator. Oh, Magi.
Joe Lewis making a cameo, dropping off some Fulminator mages so Garrett can wreck some friends tomorrow. Wreck some.
They're not going to be friends after I wreck their lands.
Fulminator mage them.
And then cast Sword of Light Shadow.
So, a couple unknown cards in Jonathan's hand. Does Troy pull the trigger here? Well, he can. He doesn't have a 6 mana. Is this a Liliana Vest coming out?
Pretty good. Start getting some cards out of Jonathan's hand.
Oh, Jonathan.
To be fair, he does always have it.
What, dissolve?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Troy goes down to 9. He has to ping himself there with a Land of War Wastes. And Obsidat is in the bin. So, a Blood Baron down, an Obsidat down. There's a Liliana Vest in Troy's hand, but Jonathan plays the full suite of Detention Spheres. So, things are getting grim for Troy very quickly as he's succumbing to the beatdown. There's a Golgari Charm.
Okay.
And Troy can't activate Underworld Connections, or else he's on a 2-turn clock. Or a 1-turn clock.
Jonathan plays a Temple of Silence from his hand, shoves a card to the bottom, and follows it up with another Night Veil.
Now he's just on a 1-turn clock, so activate away.
Yep. What do we need here? Damnation? Still not in the format.
Maelstrom will also be pretty good.
Extinguish All Hopes, isn't that the card? The poor man's... They always print 6 mana, like, worse Damnations, like Life's Finale and Extinguish All Hope.
Yeah.
Merciless Eviction.
It's like, we know the card you want. We're not printing that. But how about this worse version that will only see play Fringely or Fringe play in Commander?
Yeah, and Troy looks very dead here.
Just passing
this
back.
This might be a Golgari Charm to give all your creatures
healing
-1/-1 to gain 3 life.
Yep.
Come on in.
Yeah, can I have another claw?
Yes.
Interesting. So, rather than go for the win here, Jonathan just attacks the 2 Night Veil Spectres. I mean, it was basically all over with the shouting, but still interesting.